There's an area in the county of Kent that is somewhat legendary. It's a national nature reserve home to over 600 plant species, a third of all the plants found in the entire United Kingdom, and yet for a long time everyone called it Britain's only desert. It's featured on a Pink Floyd album cover, in the Terry Gilliam film Time Bandits, and in numerous fashion shoots and music videos. And most famously, it's where the artist Derek Jarman lived in Prospect Cottage. Did I forget to mention that 2 nuclear power stations were built there in the 60s and 80s? I shot a bunch of medium format film in Dungeness in 2011, and I'm now trying to crowdfund it into my next photo book, and today I will show you how I put the book together. So in today's episode I've swapped out the tea trolley for this bigger table, although it does make me feel like a little tiny man-child. Hello, I'm your Prime Minister. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about editing, because first up, I shot a bunch of medium format film. It was square format, so I was getting 12 shots on a roll, and I had all these contact sheets which I scanned in on my Epsom scanner rather than pay to print them, save some money there back in the day, and I have all this edit to go through. Now I printed all these little photos in like 2018, because I planned for this to be my first kind of self-published photo book. So here we go. So we've got these small little photographs here. They're just printed on paper, and it's just a little device to kind of help organise your thoughts and have some ideas and some inspiration. Because it's one thing at looking at photos on a computer, it's another thing laying them out, having a bit of chaos. So so this first little pile here, see if you can spot something going on. So let me just start laying them out. And you can shout out at home. You can shout out at home. What was that? No, you can shout at home if you start seeing anything. Can you see anything coming through yet? Is anything coming through? Can you see anything? No? Let me get this one. I'll balance that one there. No? Anything yet? You probably got it yet. Yeah, basically in every single one of these photos is Dungeness Nuclear Power Station. And I think there's 60 photos in the book, and like a third of them, in some way, shape or form, have Dungeness Nuclear Power Station kind of looming. And in some of them, it's kind of very apparent. Like it's really obviously Dungeness Nuclear Power Station, you can see it very clearly. In others, I've been in people's homes and I photographed the power station through a window. In others, it'd be like this portrait of Audrey, and wouldn't you know, there's the nuclear power station just kind of peeking through in the top left. And it becomes a little kind of a little game. And I did a similar thing with lighthouses, which I've also got as an edit too. So within the book, there'll be certain points where I'm going to pepper in these, and then it's a whole run of photographs where your eye is kind of overlaying that image of, oh, there's a power station, there's a power station, there's a power station. It all comes together, but they're all very different shots, from like a cat skulking around to this couple sat on the beach. I mean, just want to point out, some of these photos aren't even in the book. Obviously, I've changed my mind over 6 years as to what's going in. But for now, this is a really cool device. And if you're wondering, Ed, you're like, hey, what are all these numbers? Well, believe it or not, these numbers were the order, the sequence of how I was going to lay them out. So obviously that has changed. Once you've got these small little photos, what I tend to do is I kind of imagine like a blank page and a page. So, I'd imagine that that's, on one side of the book. And some of them might think, well, maybe I want to do 2 photos on a spread. So what would I put together? And you start going through thinking what images might work together. Now look, this is fun. So this set, oh, that one's gone. That's out the edit. This one, there's Audrey sat, and there's the power station. But look, this is a wider shot of Audrey sat and a little boy on a unicycle. But there's the power station really looming. And I was like, well, maybe I make it like a double-page spread, and I make this photo really big as almost like an establishing shot on one page, and on the other page I make this slightly smaller, and now it's a portrait of Audrey. So the wide shot contextualizes the environmental portrait. Something you can do. So, Mr. Bond, you like blackjack, you bust. You can also just have fun with them. You can do this, you can throw them around, you can mix them in and sort of try and communicate with them. And something's coming through. It's the photo of the power station at night. Oh, that's kind of good. So I'm going to kind of finish the book with that one, I think. It's not here, somewhere. Somewhere in this vast edit, I've got a Christmas tree. So this photograph is of a Christmas tree when I was photographing one of the houses there around Christmas. I like the way it's glowing. And that'll be a photo just before the glowing nuclear power station. And that'll be at the end of the book. And at the time, when making the work, Fukushima just happened in Japan, and very much that kind of threat of nuclear was very much kind of in the zeitgeist. And like, you know, not being weird or anything, but people would be like funny about people living near the nuclear power station. Yet when I grew up, I could see the nuclear power station from my bedroom window, and I was easily within 10 miles of the nuclear power station, right? And it wasn't until seeing the film Terminator 2 when I was a teenager did I think, yeah, maybe that's a bit dangerous, right? But check it out, man. We live in a world of like mega threat right now where like someone could just like send some nukes flying. And it doesn't matter whether you live next door to a nuclear power station or not, you're vaporized. So in a really dark way, like we all live next to the nuclear power station. Oh, it's a fun one, isn't it? It's a fun one. This was a little book dummy that I threw together, again in 2018. And obviously this has totally changed, but this was the kind of layout that inspired my book Inner Garden to England. And one thing that was really cool was that, how to put this nicely, I made notes, and my notes went in this zine. And this was like a bunch of laptops ago. I don't even know where this text is. But the good news is there's certain information here about people's names. Like, oh, that was David. You know, I was like, okay, cool, that was David, and other little bits and bobs. So by making this little throwaway little zine, it's meant that I've got some information there that I can come back to. So I won't be putting this together, like a little thing like this now, just because, you know, I don't need to print loads of paper. And I've made a few books now. So look, I've got these two bad boys. And what I'm doing with this series is essentially making the same layout again and again. So in all of these books, I don't know if I'm going to manage to show you this, but, you know, if I do that, and if I do that, you see? So there's quite a defined layout for the books. So I know what's going in and what's happening where. And I think at this point, I can visualize how it's going to look. I'm a bit more confident. Whereas I was doing a lot of dummies, just working out this first book, just to try and get this right. And I'm really happy. I know that there's going to be a photo here that's debossed on the cover. I'm going to have my text here as well. And again, I know that, you know, my spines are going to have that text on and the number 3 in the next book, because it will be my 3rd book. One thing that never normally happens is I never normally have a wetproof. Now this is a wetproof. When you're printing offset, it costs a lot of money. It's going to probably cost for me about £7,000 just to print 500 copies of the book. And before you spend all that money printing off the run, you can do what's called a wetproof. And this is a wetproof. And essentially, it's like, I've made it so it's pretty much every photo that was in the book as I planned it in 2018, the correct size, and it's a way of checking your colours. It's a way of checking your contrast. It's basically a way of checking anything that's in your image, particularly sizes. So this is the exact size of the photo, how it was going to be in the book. And look, there's a little sign. It's my way of double checking that that text was legible. But yeah, this costs quite a lot doing this. I think this was like 300 quid when I printed it all those years ago. And it's actually on uncoated paper. All my other books I've printed on silk. So it's kind of fun going back and checking out a kind of a matte finish here, this uncoated paper. But yeah, normally this never happens because I normally wouldn't do this until I've crowdfunded the book. And hey guys, it's like, I think there'll be 2 weeks left when this video comes out, and I'm around 42% funded. And frustratingly as well, right, I've had no press. It turns out there was a book that came up by Thames and Hudson about Derek Jarman's Prospect Cottage like a few weeks ago, and all of my press contacts, I'm getting nowhere. And I'm just trying to make a point here. Look, there's only one photograph of Prospect Cottage in the whole book. This book is not about Derek Jarman. This book is not about Prospect Cottage. This book is about everyday life in Dungeness, Britain's only desert. That seems like a good hook, right? So anyway, that's my plan, man. So that's what I'm going to try and do. I've got a couple of leads, so hopefully it will come to fruition. But if you would like to go to Kickstarter and get yourself a copy, it's going to be freaking awesome. And it'll be a nice addition if you have any of the previous books. And you know what? I think I'm actually on the Kickstarter. I'm selling all of the books I've done recently for £110, and I've called it a fistful of signed photo books. So I think for £110 you get Inner Garden to England, you get the When in the Lone Star State Texas book, and you get this book Dungeness. Cheap as chips, bargaino. But yeah, so I hope that was kind of helpful. It's like lifting the curtain a little bit on my process. And yeah, go to Kickstarter, do it.